Hey guys, so I have a super exciting video. I recently got back into reading. I used to love reading as a kid, but I guess just as I got older, just came up with some excuses and got really busy and just stopped reading. I actually don't have any bookshelves in my house, which is so sad, and it's a little luxury that I miss. But I decided to make my little makeshift one on our, like, I don't even know what you call these, TV stands. So I just decided to put all my books there and ignore the random mess on the other shelves. I don't really have say in what goes on there. They're my mom's, so let's ignore that. I just thought it would be cool to talk about some of the books I've been reading, and I'm not going to talk about all of them. I'll talk about some like notable mentions. And I will say that some of these books that I'm going to mention are ARC copies. They haven't been published to the public yet, but I use a service called Galley where I can request ARCs, which are advanced reader copies. Just to put it out there, I typically read mystery thrillers. I think that is my favorite genre. Typically anything that is like a psychological thriller, anything that's suspenseful. I typically steer away from any courtroom thrillers though, and anything that's more so detective based. I typically don't enjoy those. And then I would say my second favorite genre would be like YA / YA romance, YA contemporary, that kind of stuff. I am stepping my foot into adult romance and adult contemporary, but I just find myself enjoying YA a little bit more, and it's a little bit easier for me to read. I'm starting to read a lot more fantasy. I typically don't read fantasy just because, I don't know, it's just a lot. But this year I do want to diversify what types of books I do read, so I've been trying to get a little bit more into nonfiction, into poetry, into some graphic novels, so you might be seeing some of those. But typically I do read mystery thrillers and romance / YA books. One that I read really early on is Once and For All by Sarah Dessen, and honestly, I had such high expectations for this book just because I used to love Sarah Dessen as a preteen and teenager. I think I've read most of her books. So Once and For All, I gave it 3 stars. It just wasn't what I was expecting from a Sarah Dessen novel, but then again, I haven't read any of her books in so long. It was a very lighthearted and super fun story, but she included the topic of school shootings and like gun violence, and I was just very confused at that inclusion into the story. It just didn't feel like it fit in very well for me. I don't know, it just didn't give me all like the fuzzy warm feelings that I typically get from like YA romance. 2 other books that I read early on were One of Us is Lying and One of Us is Next by Karen M. McManus, and I gave both of those 4 stars. I appreciated the duology as a whole. Both of them are loosely around the same topics and the same type of story. It is a YA mystery thriller. I would say more so mystery. They both revolve around some sort of game. The first one, I would say it was kind of like a Gossip Girl-esque type of thing where there was like an app, and then the student would be posting like secrets about people in the school. It's set at a high school. And then the second book was a truth or dare type of game, but it was also online based, exposing people's secrets and stuff like that. So in both of the books, people end up dying, and you pretty much have to uncover what really happened and whether they were accidents or whether they were premeditated and that sort of thing. So I really enjoyed just how the book was written. It was written from different perspectives of all the different students, but like I said, I don't really like detective type of plots, so there was a lot of like the media aspect and the detective work, and I just I just personally don't enjoy that, especially in a book. More so I enjoy that in like movies and TV shows, just not in books. Oh, one more thing I will say, at least in the first book, I didn't really appreciate how it was reaching just a little bit. When you find out in the end what exactly happened to the student that died, at least for me, I was kind of like, what? Like that was it? That's what we were building up to? So I guess that's one of the reasons why I couldn't give it a 5-star, but yeah. So I started reading the Raven Cycle. I don't know what's taken me so long to read those books. So pretty much I've only read The Raven Boys, which is the first one, and it is a 4-part series. And yeah, I don't know why it took me so long, because Maggie Stiefvater used to be one of my favorite authors in high school. I was obsessed with, I don't remember what they're called. I don't know what the series is called, but I know the first book is called Shiver. But it was based around werewolves and them falling in love with humans, and yeah, anyways, I know a lot of people did not like those books, but for some reason I was in love with them. But yeah, for some reason I steered away from the Raven Cycle. I don't know why, but after seeing a lot of people rave about them, I decided to pick them up, and wow, was I pleasantly surprised. One thing I will say is when you read the synopsis, you will be thoroughly confused when you actually read the book, because when I first read the synopsis, it seemed like it was going to be like a romance, like a fantasy romance, but there wasn't really any romance in the actual book, like bare minimum. Pretty much in the synopsis it talks about how the main character Blue, it was part of kind of like a, I can't remember what they called themselves, but oh, you might hear some noises. People upstairs are like walking around and doing stuff. I can't remember what they call themselves, but they're kind of like witches slash psychic. She's part of a family that can do that stuff, and she can't. But she's grown up with all of them telling her and like having a premonition that she is going to kill her true love from a kiss. So she's gonna kill anybody she kisses, or like she's gonna kill her true love. So when I first read that, I thought I was going into a romance. I was wrong. There is like the start of like a budding romance, or like almost like a forbidden romance, but like nothing happens really in the first book, at least. This book essentially was about 4 guys who went to like a prep school, and you're pretty much following them they're trying to find some magical king. It's a very magical book. I would say it's on the lower spectrum of fantasy, so if you're kind of like me and you're kind of just like getting into fantasy, I think this is a good one to pick up. I've only read the first one, gave it 5 stars, loved it. But yeah, I can't wait to read the other ones. I kind of like to split up my read of series just because, I don't know, I just like variety and I like to mix it up. So yeah, I will be reading the other ones in the near future though. Another notable mention is probably one of my favorite mystery thrillers that I have read recently. It is What Lies Between Us by John Mars. Amazing, amazing, cream of the crop. Like I can't say, I literally can't say anything bad about it. Like, it was just so good. He just has a way with words. He's a talent where every single chapter is ended on a cliffhanger or a new plot twist is revealed, and you just have to keep reading. Like literally at the end of every single chapter, the last sentence, you're like, excuse me, what? So this book was just a wild ride. Pretty much it was about 2 women, Nina and Maggie, and Nina has Maggie locked up in her attic and chained up, and you don't know why, and pretty much the entire book you're discovering through the past and present tense of both character perspectives. You find out what the relationship is like, what has happened to them, issues that they've had with each other in the past, the stuff that happens is crazy. Because it's set from dual perspectives, you don't know who the unreliable narrator is, and you don't know if it's both of them. So literally the entire book you're flip-flopping between who you trust and who you want to believe, and yeah, it will give you a headache but in the best way possible. It's a really interesting read. I haven't read anything like it. I will say that there needs to be a trigger warning for this book though. There's a lot of very hard topics that are covered in this book, so if you are easily triggered by things like teen pregnancy, abortion, or not abortion, miscarriage, sexual assault of minors or sexual activity of minors, drug and alcohol abuse, yeah, it's just a lot of intense content, so just be wary of that. But overall, gave it 5 stars. I was blown away by all of the plot twists, and I did not see a lot of them coming, and I love when books can do that. Ooh, another book that I was blown away by is Dig by A.S. King, and this one, it was on my TBR for weeks before I actually picked it up. I bought the physical book, and it was just sitting on my table, just staring at me, and for some reason I was just so intimidated by it. Well, at first I thought it was an adult book, but it is actually a YA book, which is interesting. When I first read the synopsis, I was thoroughly confused. I didn't really know what I would be getting out of this book, to be honest. The synopsis did not do anything for me, and a lot of people raved about it, so I was like, okay, maybe I need to pick this up. So when you first read the synopsis, you're thinking to yourself like, okay, what am I getting into? Is this a book about white supremacy, privilege, potatoes? Like, confused. But when you read this book, you will be confused for, I want to say, the first 2/3 or even 3/4 of the book. It's crazy, I know, but you are introduced to a bunch of different characters and a bunch of different characters' perspectives, and you don't really know how they connect. At first, you're gonna think that there is some like magical surrealism in this book. You're just gonna be very confused. At least I was, because when I was reading this book, it put me in such a reading slump because I just kept thinking to myself, am I just stupid or am I stupid? I just didn't feel intellectually up there enough to comprehend this book. But I promise you, by the end of it, you will regain that sense of intellectual ability and you'll just be mind blown. If you like a book where you're just thrown every direction and then at the end it kind of just all comes together and clicks and you're mind blown and you're left thinking about it for days after, like this is the book that you need to read. Like literally everybody needs to read this book. If you get anything out of this video, it is to read this book. I promise you, you will not be let down. You will be confused and you will feel horrible about it, but I promise you it is well worth it. But yeah, rated it 5 stars. Can't go wrong. I'm kind of interested to read some of her other stuff though. I haven't really heard much of her other stuff, so I'll take a look at those. I guess one more notable mention that I will talk about is a book that I actually finished last night, and it is The Apartment by K.L. Slater. So I believe this one came out recently. I have strong feelings about this book, and not good ones. So I went into this super hopeful and expecting to get another favorite. Just from reading the synopsis, it just sounded very intriguing, and it is a mystery thriller. I will say it wasn't very thrilling. At least for me. I actually rated this one 2 stars, and there was just a lot of things I did not like about this book. First of all, it was a very, very short book, which in my head meant, oh, okay, so it's gonna be jam-packed with like thrilling components and it's just gonna go super fast. No. It's probably one of the slowest thrillers I've read recently. And honestly, everything that is pivotal to the plot happens after like the 85% point, which was super annoying because I just kept reading and reading and reading, and I was like, is anything gonna happen? Like, there's no plot twist, no nothing. Like, I'm so confused. Also, I will say that I think the book could have benefited by not having a prologue, just because you are introduced to one of the plot twists in the prologue. So I think that if the author eliminated the prologue altogether, she could have used it to her advantage as a plot twist near the end of the book, because it is talked about near the end as a plot twist, but we were already introduced to it at the beginning. So it was like, when I say I like psychological thrillers, I don't mean it so literally. So if you guys didn't know, I have a bachelor degree in neuroscience and mental health studies, and this book felt like something that I would have been assigned to read as content in one of my courses. Without spoiling too much, this book heavily focuses on classical conditioning and the idea of experimentation in the psychiatry world. There's a lot of mentions of Little Albert. If you guys don't know who Little Albert is, it was a little boy that was experimented on by a scientist named John Watson. And he pretty much used the little boy in order to test whether fears and emotions could be taught or if they're just innately in humans. It was a very unethical experiment, especially back in the day when there weren't very many regulations. But yeah, this book talked a lot about it, and it just wasn't my cup of tea. Like, I learned about that in university and I didn't really want to revisit it in a novel I was just reading for pleasure. So I guess if you're really into psychology in a literal sense and like talking about experimentation and classical conditioning and learning, sure, you might love this book, but I just think that the execution of it was very poorly done, and it could have been way more thrilling and way more suspenseful. But yeah, I gave it 2 stars. I mean, it wasn't for me, but like I said, if anything that I said intrigues you, try it out, see if you like it better than me. So I did read a bunch more books these past 2 months, but I'm not gonna bore you with talking about all of them. I will leave my Goodreads account down below if you guys want to check out any of my reviews or any books that I've read recently. I do have some physical books coming in the mail shortly, so if you guys want to see what I picked up, I can do an unboxing and a haul for you guys. I'll also leave my Instagram down below. I typically post mini reviews on my stories when I finish a book, if you guys are into that. So yeah, I'll talk to you guys later. I hope you guys have an amazing day, and yeah, make sure you subscribe if you guys are excited for my future content, and like this video if you enjoyed, and yeah, I'll see you guys next time. Bye!